All right, everyone, it's time for Occult Literature, number 349, Contentions with God, a Study in Jewish Folklore. It's a very, very interesting work. It's only 40 pages, so this is quite short, quasi-academic. I think it was meant as a historical treatise that was offered from one academic of like Talmudic and Torah material to like the main professor. It is very, very interesting. I'll get into why. First and foremost, though, link in the description to my edition of this work on Amazon. Second and third links are to my books blogs. There are plenty of other compilations of folklore. I did put this under the folklore header, although technically speaking, it also is, it's technically a quasi-religious work. It's talking about rabbinical decisions and stuff. It's also technically an academic work. It's compiling history. So I didn't know exactly where to put it, but I said folklore is in the title, so I'm gonna favor that category. Anyway, this is a collection of astonishingly funny stories. It's somewhat humorous at times. You'll probably get a good chuckle out of this if you read it. And it's about the Jewish religion, and specifically that there's a little bit of a habit within the Jewish folklore sort of thing to have stories where some Jewish individual notices that there is a technical contradiction, a technicality within the Torah as opposed to some other canonical or legalistic system, some other aspect of law that's subjugate to the Torah, etc., Midrash, Zohar. They notice a contradiction. They notice a contravention. They notice that something is situationally non-applicable but still upheld, and so they will sue God. In the literal sense, this has actually happened. In some of these tales, some of these are not just folk tales. Some of these are recollections of historical incidences in which an individual practicing Judaism went to the rabbis, pointed out a contradiction within the Torah, and said, look, God contradicted himself. So X, Y, and Z cannot stand. This law can't be enforced. That law is interpreted differently, etc., etc., etc. And so you get the situation where, in some cases, you've got traditions. Most of these are more ancient. You get oral traditions that were then later written down, where some of the major Jewish figures from the Old Testament are having conversations with God, and basically telling him, well, God, you've said one thing and then you said another. Well, obviously you can't smite me. You can't smite the people of Israel. You can't smite this cow because you have contravened yourself. You're in the wrong. And it usually ends up with God, amusingly, the Jewish God, saying, oh, yeah, you're right. Well, guess I can't uphold the Torah. To the point of the near absolution of practitioners in some of these folk tales, if you take them seriously, of having to follow really any laws at all, beyond, trying to be good and not, butchering everything in sight. Beyond that, the other laws situationally could be non-applicable because they're contravening one another. Now, this is funny because contraventions in religion normally pose a huge problem for the religion. The Jews just decided to make it a running joke. Apparently, there's one story where death is cheated. Not God, but death. I can't remember the circumstances, and it reminded me a little bit. I remember a story when we were studying Hanukkah and Kwanzaa and shit in school. Yes, they used to be able to do that. Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, basically some Vedic and Japanese folk religious stuff. It was interesting. Some Japanese practice where they throw beans over their shoulder to blind the devil or something. Anyway, I remember one tale, a Hanukkah tale. It was about some Jewish dude who's a demon was trying to trick him or take his soul, and he tricks him with a dreidel because he makes up these convoluted rules that make it so the demon can't win or something like that. I can't remember. Anyway, it sort of reminded me of that. So this is a short work, but it's very dense, and it's essentially just a long screed of works in which God is sometimes embarrassed. Because the deity can't lie or go back on his word, and so when challenged on a technicality or contradiction, has no choice but to absolve you of even following the Torah's law in some cases. Very interesting. So again, link in the description to my edition of this work on Amazon. Second and third links are to my books, blogs. This is a funny one, so this is more on the humorous side even than on the historical side at times. That's about all. Peace out.